beautiful souls. Sunshine here, and I'm glad you've joined me for this segment of Energize Your Passion. Today, we're diving deep into something that touches all of us, our emotional landscape. We're going to talk about what it means to truly check in with ourselves, recognize when we're not feeling our best, and why that's totally okay. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, anxious, or just plain sad for no apparent reason, you're not alone. And today, we're going to explore why these feelings happen, how we can understand them better, and what we can do to embrace them as part of our journey. So wherever you are, whether you're sipping your morning coffee, taking a walk, or winding down after a long day, let's take this time together to really connect with our inner selves. Let's begin by recognizing when we might be struggling and understanding why it's so important to give ourselves the grace to feel. Segment 1. Understanding our emotional landscape. We all go through ups and downs, and sometimes it feels like the world expects us always to be okay. But guess what? It's perfectly fine not to be okay. We're going to unpack what that really means and how we can navigate our emotions with compassion and care. Let's start by talking about emotional distress. We've all been there. These moments when life feels overwhelming, when anxiety creeps in, or when a sadness you can't quite explain takes hold. Recognizing these feelings is the first step towards understanding and managing them. Maybe you've felt that knot in your stomach before, a big meeting, that rush of anxiety when things don't go as planned. Or maybe you've had a day where getting out of the bed feels like climbing a mountain. These are signs that something is off, and it's important to acknowledge them. I remember a time in my life when I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I was juggling so many responsibilities, trying to keep up with work, family, and everything in between. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling of being overwhelmed. It wasn't until I took a step back and recognized what was happening that I could start to address it. Emotional distress doesn't always look the same for everyone. It can manifest as irritability, trouble concentrating, physical symptoms like headaches, or even just a sense of numbness. And while it's normal to experience these feelings from time to time, it's crucial to check in with ourselves regularly to see if they're becoming more than just a passing phase. Now let's talk about the pressure we all feel to be okay. Society often tells us that we should be happy, successful, and have it all together. There's this unspoken rule that we should always put on a brave face no matter what's going on inside. But that's just not realistic, and it's certainly not healthy. Think about social media for a moment. We're constantly bombarded with images of people living their best lives, smiling, traveling, achieving their goals. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to these curated snapshots and feeling like we're falling short. But what we don't see are the struggles, the doubts, and the hardships that everyone goes through behind the scenes. This pressure to always appear put together can be especially strong in certain cultures or communities where showing vulnerability is seen as a sign of weakness. But the truth is, vulnerability is a part of being human. It's okay to admit when we're struggling, and it's okay to ask for help. The impact of hustle culture also plays a big role in this. We're often told that being busy equals being successful, and that if you're not constantly working, we're not doing enough. But this mindset can lead to burnout and emotional exhaustion. It's important to remember that our worth isn't defined by how much we do, but by who we are as individuals. Let's shift gears and talk a bit about the science behind our emotions. I promise I'll keep it simple. No need to get too technical here. Our emotions are closely tied to the brain chemistry. For example, when we experience something positive, our brain releases neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which makes us feel good. On the flip side, when we're stressed or anxious, our brain produces cortisol, a hormone that prepares our body to deal with danger. This cortisol is helpful in short bursts. Prolonged stress can lead to an imbalance in our emotions. Sometimes we might feel out of balance for reasons that aren't immediately obvious. It could be due to hormonal changes, a lack of sleep, poor diet, or even not getting enough sunlight. All of these factors can impact our mood and emotional well-being. Understanding that our emotions are influenced by both our brain chemistry and our environment can help us be more compassionate with ourselves. It's not always about toughing it out. Sometimes it's about recognizing that our brains and bodies are trying to tell us something and that it's okay to listen and respond with care. I want to share some real life examples of people who have opened up about their emotional struggles and found strength in vulnerability. These stories remind us that we're not alone and that it's okay to seek support when we need it. Let's talk about the story of a famous actor who, despite his success, has been open about his battle with depression. He once said, "I've learned that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to talk about what's going on inside." His courage to speak out has helped countless others feel less alone in their struggles. Or take the example of an everyday individual, a mother of three, who shared her story about feeling overwhelmed and exhausted by the demands of parenting. She talked about how she reached a breaking point and finally opened up to her partner about her need for support. Through that conversation, they were able to make changes that allowed her to take better care of herself and in turn be a better mother. These stories are powerful because they show that even in the face of challenges, there is always a way forward. It's through acknowledging our struggles and seeking help that we can find the strength to move forward. So, how do we take what we've talked about today and apply it to our lives? I've got a few practical tips that can help you check in with yourself emotionally and embrace your feelings without judgment. Number 1, daily check-ins. Start by making a habit to check in with yourself every day. Ask yourself, how am I feeling today? What's on my mind? You can do this in the morning, during a quiet moment in the day, or before bed. The goal is to tune in to your emotions and acknowledge them, whatever they may be. Number 2, journaling. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can be incredibly therapeutic. It doesn't have to be anything formal. Just grab a notebook and jot down whatever comes to mind. Journaling allows you to process your emotions and gain insight into what might be causing them. Number 3, meditation and mindfulness. Taking a few minutes each day to meditate or practice mindfulness can help you stay grounded and calm. Even just focusing on your breath for a few moments can make a big difference. There are plenty of guided meditations available online if you're new to the practice. Number 4, deep breathing exercises. When you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious, try deep breathing. Inhale slowly through your nose, hold for a few seconds, and then exhale through your mouth. Repeat this a few times and notice how it helps calms your mind and body. Number 5, embrace your emotions. Finally, give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling without judgment. It's okay to have bad days, to feel sad, or to be anxious. These emotions are a natural part of life, and by acknowledging them, we can start to work through them. As we wrap up this segment, I want you to remember that it's perfectly okay not to be okay. We all experience emotional ups and downs, and it's important to acknowledge and understand them rather than pushing them aside. By checking in with ourselves, embracing our vulnerability, and seeking support when needed, we can navigate our emotional landscape with greater ease and compassion. I hope this conversation has helped you feel a little more connected with yourself and to the world around you. Segment 2, breaking the stigma. We're continuing our journey of understanding by breaking the stigma around mental health. You know, there's a lot of pressure out there to always be okay, to always have it all together. And that pressure can make it really hard to open up when we're not feeling our best. But here's the thing. It's time we start changing that narrative. It's time we start talking openly about our struggles, our fears, and our emotions without feeling ashamed or judged. In this segment, we're going to explore the history of mental health stigma, how society and media have shaped the way we think about our emotional struggles, and what we can do to change the conversation. We'll also dive into practical steps you can take to combat stigma in your own life and create a more supportive community around you. So let's get into it. The history of mental health stigma. Let's start by taking a little trip back in time. Understanding the history of mental health stigma can give us some insight into why we still struggle with it today. For much of history, mental health was poorly understood, and unfortunately, that lack of understanding led to fear, discrimination, and even cruelty. In ancient times, mental illness was often seen as a form of divine punishment or possession by evil spirits. People who exhibited signs of emotional or psychological distress were frequently ostracized, locked away, or subjected to harsh treatments. For example, in medieval Europe, those with mental illnesses were sometimes accused of witchcraft and executed, or they were confined to asylums where conditions were inhumane. As we move into the 19th and early 20th centuries, the field of psychiatry began to develop, but the stigma around mental health didn't go away. Instead, it evolved. Mental illness often seems as a character flaw or moral failing, and people were still isolated and institutionalized, sometimes for life. It wasn't until the mid-20th century that attitudes began to shift thanks to the work of mental health advocates and the development of more humane treatments. But despite these advancements, the stigma around mental health has persisted. Even today, many people feel ashamed or afraid to speak about their struggles because they worry about being judged. misunderstood, or treated differently. This stigma doesn't just hurt those who are struggling, it also discourages people from seeking the help they need. And that's why it's so important to continue pushing forward for change, to create a world where talking about mental health is as normal as talking about physical health. Now let's talk about the role that media and society play in perpetuating the stigma around mental health. From the movies we watch to the social media we stroll through, the messages we receive about happiness, success, and what it means to be okay can have a huge impact on how we view ourselves and our emotions. Think about the last movie or TV show you watch. How were the characters who struggle with mental health portrayed? Were they depicted as crazy or dangerous? Were their struggles trivialized or used as a plot device? Unfortunately, this is all too common in media. These portrayals reinforce negative stereotypes and make it harder for people to feel comfortable talking about their own mental health challenges. Social media adds another layer to this issue. We live in a world where we're constantly bombarded with images of other people's perfect lives, whether it's their flawless vacations, their seemingly happy relationships, or their latest accomplishments. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparison, where we start to feel like we're the only ones who aren't living up to these unrealistic standards. But what we don't see are the struggles behind these photos. We don't see the bad days, the insecurities, or the moments of doubt. This comparison culture can make us feel inadequate, and it can also make us less likely to open up about our own struggles. After all, if everyone else seemed to have it all together, we might think there's something wrong with us if we don't. But the truth is, nobody's life is as perfect as it looks on social media. We all have our ups and downs, and it's important to remember that those curated images don't tell the whole story. So how do we challenge these narratives? One powerful way is to start sharing real stories and experiences. When we're open and honest about our struggles, we help others see that they're not alone. We break down the illusions of perfection and create spaces for authentic, meaningful connections. And when we support others in doing the same, we build a community where it's safe to be vulnerable. It's one thing to recognize the stigma around mental health, but how we actually go about changing the conversation. How do we move from a society that stigmatizes emotional struggles to one that embraces and supports mental well-being? One way is by highlighting the movements and individuals who are already making a difference. Over the past few years, we've seen a growing number of people, celebrities, athletes, activists who are speaking out about their mental health journeys. These voices are incredibly powerful because they help normalize the conversation. When someone like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, a Lady Gaga, opens up about their struggles with depression or anxiety, it sends a message that it's okay to talk about these things. That is not something to be ashamed of. There are also entire movements dedicated to breaking the stigma around mental health. Organizations like the National Alliance on Mental Illness and campaigns like Pound Bell Let's Talk are working tirelessly to raise awareness, provide education, and create supportive communities for those affected by mental health issues. These efforts are crucial because they not only help individuals, but they also shift societal attitudes making it easier for future generations to talk openly about their mental health. But changing the conversation isn't just about the big names and the large-scale movements. It's also about what we do in our everyday lives. It's about the conversations we have with our friends, our families, and our communities. When we're willing to be vulnerable, we share our own stories and listen without judgment to others. We create ripples of change that can have a profound impact. One of the most powerful tools we have in this effort is vulnerability. I know, vulnerability can be scary. It can feel risky to open up about our struggles, especially when we're not sure how others will respond. But here's the thing, vulnerability is also incredibly powerful. It's what allows us to connect on a deeper level with others. When we share our true selves, our fears, our doubts, our pain, we give others permission to do the same. And that's how we create a more supportive, compassionate community. So, I want to encourage you, my dear listeners, to be part of this change. Be open about your feelings, even when it's hard. Support others when they open up to you. And remember that by doing so, you're helping to create a world where it's okay not to be okay. All right, let's get into some practical steps we can all take to combat stigma in our own lives and communities. It's one thing to understand the issue, but it's another to actively work towards change. The good news is there are simple, everyday actions we can take that can make a big difference. First, let's talk about starting conversations about mental health with friends and family. I know it can feel awkward or even intimidating to bring up these topics, especially if it's not something you're used to discussing. But the more we talk about mental health, the more we normalize it. You don't have to dive into deep personal conversations right away. Sometimes it can just be as simple as asking, how are you really doing? How are you really doing? Or sharing a personal experience that opens the door for others to do the same. Another important step is creating a safe space for others to share their feelings without fear of judgment. This means listening with empathy and understanding rather than trying to fix someone or dismiss their feelings. It's about being present, offering support, and letting the person know that it's okay to feel what you're feeling. Sometimes just knowing that someone is there to listen can make all the difference. Educating ourselves and others about mental health is also key. The more we know about mental health and emotional well-being, the better equipped we are to challenge stigma and support those around us. There are so many great resources out there, from books and articles to podcasts and documentaries that can help us learn more. And don't be afraid to share what you've learned with others. By spreading knowledge, we help break down the barriers that keep people from seeking help. Another practical step is to use social media mindfully. Social media can be a double-edged sword. It can spread positivity and awareness, but it can also contribute to stigma and unrealistic expectations. Be mindful of the content you share and engage with. Are you perpetuating the idea that everyone should be okay all the time? Or are you contributing to a more authentic, supportive online community? Consider sharing your own experiences with mental health or supporting campaigns that promote mental well-being. Your voice can make a difference. Finally, let's talk about self-compassion. Breaking the stigma around mental health isn't just about supporting others. It's also about how we treat ourselves. We need to be kind to ourselves, to recognize that it's okay to have bad days, to struggle, and to ask for help. Practicing self-compassion means being gentle with yourself, especially during tough times. It's about acknowledging your feelings without judgment and giving yourself the space to heal. Remember, every small action counts, whether it's starting a conversation, offering a listening ear, or simply being kinder to yourself. You're contributing to a larger movement that's changing the way we talk about and understand mental health. Breaking down the stigma around mental health is crucial, but it's also important to know how to take care of ourselves when we're not feeling our best. In the next segment, we'll explore different ways to heal and practice self-care. We'll dive into practical tips, tools, and techniques that can help you nurture your emotional well-being, even during the most challenging times. So stay tuned because there's so much more to come on this journey towards understanding and embracing our emotional landscape. Segment 3, Healing and Self-Care. In our last segment, we talked about breaking the stigma around mental health and how important it is to change the conversation. Now let's shift our focus to something deeply personal and essential: healing and self-care. This is where the magic happens, where we start to nurture ourselves from the inside out. Self-care is more than just a buzzword. It's a way of life that prioritizes our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. But what does self-care really mean? How do we build a self-care routine that truly supports us? And what are the practical steps we can take to ensure we're taking care of ourselves? Even during tough times, that's what we're going to explore in this segment. So let's dive in. When you hear the term self-care, what comes to mind? For many people, it might be images of bubble baths, spa days, or treating yourself to something special. And while these things are absolutely part of self-care, there's just the tip of the iceberg. True self-care goes much deeper than temporary fixes or pampering sessions. Self-care is about nurturing your whole self mentally, emotionally, and physically. It's about creating habits and routines that support your well-being in a sustainable way. It's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's about building a foundation for long-term health and happiness. So what does it look like? It might mean setting boundaries to protect your mental health, making time for activities that bring you joy, or ensuring you're getting enough sleep and nourishment. It's about recognizing when you need to take a step back, recharge, and give yourself permission to rest. Self-care is deeply personal and can look different for everyone, but at its core, it's about showing yourself the same love and compassion that you would offer to a dear friend. Let's be real. Self-care isn't always easy. In our busy lives, it can feel like there's no time for it, or like it's a luxury we can't afford. But here's the truth. Self-care isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. When we take care of ourselves, we're better equipped to handle life's challenges, to show up for others, and to live in alignment with our true selves. So let's start redefining self-care as something that's not only important, but essential. Now that we've talked about what self-care really is, let's get into the nitty-gritty of how to build a self-care routine that works for you. The key to self-care is that it is personal. What works for one person may not work for another, and that's okay. The goal is to create a routine that feels good to you and supports your well-being. in a meaningful way. So how do you start? First, take some time to reflect on what makes you feel good. What activities bring you joy? What makes you relax and unwind? What makes you feel grounded and connected to yourself? These are the building blocks of your self-care routine. Here's a simple step-by-step process to help you get started. Number 1, identify your needs. Start by tuning your body and mind. What are you craving? Do you need more rest, more movement, more connection, or more time alone? Understanding your needs is the first step in creating a routine that truly supports you. Number 2, choose activities that nurture you. Once you've identified your needs, think about the activities that nurture your needs. For example, if you're feeling stressed, you might incorporate mindfulness practices like meditation or deep breathing into your routine. If you're feeling disconnected, you might make time to call a friend or spend time in nature. Number 3, start small. It's important not to overwhelm yourself by trying to do too much at once. Start small and gradually build your routine. Maybe you begin with just 5 minutes of mindfulness each morning or a short walk after dinner. The key is consistency. Small, regular actions can make a big difference over time. Number 4, make it enjoyable. Self-care shouldn't feel like a chore. Choose activities that you genuinely enjoy and look forward to. This might mean trying out different things to see what resonates with you. Remember, this is about nurturing yourself, not adding more stress to your life. Number 5, be flexible. Life is unpredictable, and there will be days when your routine might not go as planned. That's okay. Be flexible and gentle with yourself. Self-care isn't about perfection. It's about making choices that support your well-being, even when things don't go perfectly. Here are a few examples of self-care activities you might consider incorporating into your routine. Number 1, exercise. Movement is a great way to care for both your body and mind. This could be anything from a gentle yoga session to a brisk walk or a dance class. Find something that makes you feel good. Number 2, reading. Losing yourself in a good book can be a wonderful form of self-care, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, or poetry. Choose something that nourishes your soul. Number 3, spending time in nature. There's something incredibly healing about being in nature. Whether it's a hike in the woods, a walk on the beach, or simply sitting in your garden, spending time outside can be a great way to recharge. Number 4, practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being present in the moment without judgment. This could be through meditation, deep breathing exercises, or simply taking a few minutes to focus on your surroundings. And number 5, creative outlets. Engaging in creative activities like painting, writing, or playing music can be a powerful form of self-care. It allows you to express yourself and connect with your inner world. Remember, your self-care routine is all about you. It's about finding what works for you and making it a priority in your life. Mindfulness and meditation. Let's talk about one of the most powerful tools for self-care, mindfulness and meditation. These practices have been around for thousands of years, and for good reason. They offer a way to connect with ourselves, manage stress, and cultivate a sense of inner peace. Mindfulness is all about being present in the moment without judgment. It's about Paying attention to your thoughts, feelings, and sensations, and accepting them as they are. When we practice mindfulness, we give ourselves the opportunity to step back from the chaos of daily life and connect with what's really going on inside of us. Meditation is one way to practice mindfulness, and there are many different techniques you can try. Here are a few simple practices that you can incorporate in your self-care routine. Number 1, deep breathing. One of the easiest ways to practice mindfulness is through deep breathing. Find a quiet place to sit or lie down, close your eyes, and take slow, deep breaths. Focus on the sensation of the air entering and leaving your body. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring your attention back to your breath. This simple practice can help calm your mind and reduce stress. Number 2, guided meditation. If you're new to meditation, guided meditations can be a great place to start. There are many apps and online resources available that offer guided sessions, ranging from just a few minutes to longer practices. These meditations can help you focus on specific themes like relaxation, gratitude, or self-compassion. Number 3, body scan. A body scan meditation involves paying attention to different parts of your body, from your toes to the top of your head. As you focus on each area, notice any sensation you're feeling. Tension, warmth, coolness, or anything else. This practice can help you become more aware of how stress or emotions manifest in your body and can promote relaxation. Number 4, mindful walking. If sitting still isn't your thing, mindful walking might be a better fit. As you walk, focus on the sensation of your feet touching the ground, the movement of your body, and the sights and sounds around you. Walking mindfully can help you connect with the present moment and clear your mind. The benefits of mindfulness and meditation are well documented. Regular practice can help reduce stress, improve focus, enhance emotional regulation, and promote overall well-being. But perhaps the most important benefit is that it helps you stay grounded and connected, even in the midst of life's challenges. If you're new to mindfulness and meditation, don't worry about getting it right. There's no right or wrong way to practice. What matters is that you're taking the time to connect with yourself. Start with just a few minutes a day and see how it feels. Over time, you might find that these practices become an integral part of your self-care routine. Life can be tough, and there will be times when we're feeling low and overwhelmed. During these moments, it's important to have healthy coping strategies that help us navigate our emotions and find our way back to a place of balance. One of the most effective coping strategies is reaching out to someone you trust, whether it's a friend, family member, or therapist. Talking about what you're going through can help you process your emotions and gain perspective. Sometimes just knowing that someone is there to listen can make all the difference. Another powerful coping mechanism is writing down your thoughts. Journaling allows you to express your feelings in a safe, private space. It can help you make sense of your emotions, identify patterns, and even discover solutions to problems. If you're not sure where to start, try writing about how you're feeling in the moment or reflect on what's been weighing on your mind. Engaging in a hobby or creative activity can also be a great way to cope with stress, whether it's painting, cooking, gardening, or playing an instrument. Doing something you enjoy can provide a much needed distraction and help you feel more grounded. But what if you notice that a coping mechanism isn't serving you well? Sometimes we might turn to unhealthy habits like overindulging in food or alcohol, isolating ourselves, or spending too much time on social media as a way to cope. If you find yourself relying on these behaviors, it's important to recognize that they might be doing more harm than good. When you notice an unhealthy coping mechanism, take a step back and ask yourself what you really need. Do you need connection, relaxation, or an outlet for your emotions? Once you've identified the underlying need, try to find a healthier way to meet it. And remember, it's okay to seek professional help if you're struggling to cope. There's no shame in asking for support when you need it. If you're feeling overwhelmed, talking to a therapist or counselor can provide you with tools and strategies to manage your emotions in a healthy way. Here are a few resources you might consider. Therapy and counseling. Finding a licensed therapist or counselor can provide you with personalized support and guidance. Support groups. Joining a support group, whether in person or online, can connect you with others who are going through similar experiences. Crisis hotlines. If you're in crisis, there are hotlines available that offer immediate support. Segment 4. Supporting others. So far in this episode, we've explored understanding our emotional landscape, breaking the stigma around mental health, and the importance of healing and self-care. Now let's shift our focus to something equally important, supporting others. We all have people in our lives that we care about deeply, whether they're friends, family, or colleagues. And sometimes these people might be struggling in ways that aren't immediately obvious. In this segment, we're going to talk about how to recognize when someone might not be okay, how to approach these delicate conversations, and how to offer support in a way that's compassionate and helpful. Let's dive in. It's not always easy to tell when someone is going through a tough time, especially if they're trying to put on a brave face. But there are often subtle signs that someone might be struggling, even if they're not saying it out loud. Maybe you've noticed that a friend who's usually bubbly and outgoing has become more withdrawn, or perhaps a loved one seems more irritable or anxious than usual. These changes in behavior can be a red flag that something isn't quite right. Other signs might include a loss of interest in activities they used to enjoy, changes in their sleeping or eating habits, or a general sense of sadness or hopelessness. It's important to remember that everyone expresses their emotions differently. Some people might be more open about their struggles, while others might keep their feelings bottled up. That's why it's so crucial to pay attention to those subtle cues and trust your instincts. If something feels off, it's worth checking in. Approaching the conversation can feel daunting, especially if you're not sure how the other person will react. But it's important to approach it with empathy and without judgment. Start by expressing your concern in a gentle way. You might say something like, "Hey, I've noticed you've been a bit quieter than usual lately. Is everything okay?" Or, "I'm here for you if you want to talk about anything." The key is to let them know that you care and that you're there to listen without pressuring them to open up if they're not ready. Sometimes just knowing that someone is there for them can be a huge relief. Let's talk about the power of listening. Really listening. When someone does decide to open up, active listening is one of the most powerful ways we can support someone who's struggling. It's about being fully present in the moment and giving the other person your undivided attention. When someone is sharing their feelings with you, resist the urge to jump in with advice or try to fix things. Sometimes all they need is a safe space to express themselves without fear of judgment. Your role as a listener is to hold that space for them and let them know that their feelings are valid. Here are a few tips on how to be an active listener. Number 1, be fully present. Put away any distractions, your phone, your to-do list, and focus entirely on the person in front of you. Make eye contact, nod, and use gentle verbal cues like "I see" or "that sounds really tough" to show that you're engaged. Number 2, avoid interrupting. Letting the other person speak without interrupting or jumping in with your own thoughts. Give them the time and space they need to express themselves fully. Number 3, reflect back. Once they've shared, try reflecting back what you've heard in your own words. For example, it sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed at work right now. It shows that you're really listening and that you're trying to understand their perspective. Number 4, ask open-ended questions. If the conversation feels stuck, try asking open-ended questions that encourages them to share more. For instance, can you tell me more about how you've been feeling? Or what do you think would help right now? Number 5, validate their feelings. Let them know that it's okay to feel the way they do. Phrases like, "It's completely understandable that you're feeling this way," or "I'm really glad you're sharing this with me," can go a long way in making someone feel heard and supported. Active listening is about creating a space where the other person feels safe to express themselves without fear of judgment. It's about being there for them in a way that's supportive and compassionate. And sometimes that's all they need, a listening ear and a kind heart. Once someone has opened up to you, you might wonder, what can I do to help? Offering support can take many forms, and it's important to remember that sometimes the smallest gestures can make the biggest difference. Here are a few practical ways you can support someone who's struggling. Number 1, be there for them. Sometimes just being physically present is enough. Whether it's sitting with them in silence, going for a walk together, or simply being a comforting presence, your support doesn't always have to be verbal. Number 2, offer practical help. If they're feeling overwhelmed, practical help can be invaluable. This might mean helping them with tasks they're struggling with, like cooking a meal, running an errand, or even just helping them organize their space. These small acts of kindness can help ease their burden and show that you care. Number 3, encourage professional help. If they're struggling with their mental health, gently encourage them to seek professional support. You might say something like, "It could be really helpful to talk to someone who's trained to help with this. I'm happy to help you find someone if that will make it easier." Number 4, check in regularly. Don't just check in once and assume they're okay. Make a point to follow up regularly, even if it's just a quick text to say, "I'm thinking of you." Consistent support can help them feel less alone. Number 5, respect their boundaries. It's important to respect their boundaries and not push them to talk or do something they're not ready for. Let them set the pace for how they want to be supported and be there in whatever way they need. When offering support, it's also important to be mindful of what you say. Avoid phrases that might minimize their feelings like, it's not that bad, or just try to stay positive. Instead, focus on being empathetic and validating their experience. You might say, I'm sorry you're going through this, and it's okay to feel how you're feeling. Remember, your role isn't to fix things for them, but to offer support and encouragement as they navigate their own journey. Your kindness, compassion, and presence can make a world of difference. Supporting others isn't just about one-on-one interactions. It's also about creating a sense of community where people feel safe to share and connect. When we build strong, supportive communities, we create environments where everyone can thrive and feel more connected. In a world where we often feel isolated or disconnected, building a community of support is more important than ever. This could be as simple as fostering open communication within your family, creating a support group among friends, or even joining online communities where people share similar experiences. Creating spaces where people can share openly and feel supported is a powerful way to combat loneliness and isolation. It's about being intentional and how we connect with others and making sure that everyone feels seen, heard, and valued. Here's how you can contribute to building a supportive community. Number 1, be open and vulnerable. When you share your own struggles, you give others the permission to do the same. Vulnerability can be contagious in the best way. It creates a ripple effect that encourages others to open up. Number 2, create safe spaces, whether it's in your home, workplace, or social circles. Strive to create environments where people feel comfortable being themselves. This might mean setting the tone for open communication, respecting others' boundaries, and offering support when it's needed. Number 3, foster inclusivity. Try to include others and ensure that no one feels left out or marginalized. This can be as simple as inviting someone to join a conversation or making sure everyone's voice is heard in a group setting. Number 4, support local initiatives. Look for ways to support local mental health initiatives or community groups that promote well-being. Whether it's volunteering, donating, or simply spreading the word, your involvement can make a difference. Building a strong support network isn't just about helping others, it's also about creating a sense of belonging for yourself. When we come together as a community, we lift each other up and create a positive environment where everyone can thrive. Now that we've talked about the importance of supporting others, let's get into some practical tips that you can start using today. Being a source of support doesn't have to be complicated. It's often the small, consistent actions that make the biggest impact. Number 1, check in regularly. Make it a habit to check in with your friends and loved ones regularly. This doesn't have to be a long conversation. Sometimes a simple, how are you doing? Or I'm thinking of you can mean the world to someone who's struggling. Number 2, be kind present. Sometimes just being there is enough. Offer your presence without expecting anything in return. Whether it's sitting in silence with someone or offering a listening ear, your presence can be a powerful source of comfort. Number 3, learn more. Educate yourself on mental health and how to support others effectively. There are plenty of resources available, books, podcasts, online courses that can help you become a more informed and empathetic supporter. Number 4, encourage openness. Foster a culture of openness in your relationships. Let the people in your life know that it's okay to talk about their struggles and that you're there to support them no matter what. Number 5, practice self-care. Supporting others can be emotionally taxing, so it's important to take care of yourself as well. Make sure you're practicing self-care and seeking support when you need it. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. Lastly, if you're looking to learn more about how to support someone struggling with their mental health, there are many resources available to help. Consider exploring Mental Health First Aid, a course that teaches you how to identify, understand, and respond to signs of mental health issues. Online communities. There are many online forums and support groups where you can connect with others who are passionate about mental health advocacy. Books and podcasts. There are countless books and podcasts that offer insights into mental health and how to be a supportive friend or family member. By taking these steps, you can become a beacon of support and compassion in your community. Your actions, no matter how small, have the power to make a profound difference in someone's life. Healing and self-care are essential for our well-being, and supporting others is a vital part of that journey. But remember, we're not in this alone. Coming up next, we'll talk about how we can create a more passionate community where others feel supported and valued. Segment 5, Embracing Vulnerability and Growth. We've covered so much in this episode already, from understanding our emotions to supporting others on their journeys. Now I want to dive into something that's incredibly powerful, yet often overlooked: vulnerability. Yes, you heard me right. I'm talking about the power of being open, raw, and real, and how it can lead to some of the most profound growth and connection in our lives. So let's get into it. Vulnerability. Just hearing the word makes some of us want to retreat in our shells. But here's the thing. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a strength. In a world that often celebrates toughness and self-reliance, being vulnerable can feel like going against the grain. But when we allow ourselves to be truly seen, flaws, fears, and all, we open the door to deeper connections with others. Think about it. When you've shared a struggle with someone and they've responded with empathy and understanding, didn't it bring you closer? That's the magic of vulnerability. It's about showing up as your authentic self and saying, "This is me. This is where I'm at." And that's okay. It's through this openness that we build trust and create meaningful relationships. So I encourage you to start embracing your vulnerability. Share your story, your truth with those you trust. You might be surprised at how it strengthens your connections and even inspire others to do the same. We all go through tough times, moments that test us, that push us to our limits. But here's a perspective shift. What if these challenges was actually opportunities for growth? Interesting, huh? It's a concept known as post-traumatic growth. The ideal that we can come out of adversity stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. I know when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to see the silver lining, but often it's in these challenging moments that we discover what we're truly made of. We learn about our resilience, our capacity for empathy, and our ability to adapt and overcome. Think back to a tough time in your life. Maybe it was a breakup, a job loss, or a health scare. What did you learn from that experience? How did it shape the person you are today? These are the moments that define us, not because they were easy, but because we grew through them. So the next time life throws you a curveball, try to see it as a chance to learn and grow. It's not about minimizing the pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about recognizing that there's potential for something meaningful to come out of even the hardest experiences. Now let's talk about rewriting your narrative. We all have a story we tell ourselves about who we are, our strengths, our weaknesses, our past experiences. But what if that story isn't serving you? What if it's holding you back from living your fullest, most authentic life? The good news is you have the power to change that narrative. You can take control of your story and embrace your whole self, flaws and all. This process starts with self-compassion and forgiveness. It's about letting go of the need to be perfect and instead embracing who you are right here, right now. Ask yourself, what story have you been telling yourself? Is it one of limitation and fear or one of possibility and growth? If it's the former, it's time to rewrite it. Start by acknowledging your past, but don't let it define your future. Every day is a new opportunity to write a new chapter, one that reflects the person you truly want to be. And remember, this isn't about erasing the tough times or pretending they didn't happen. It's about integrating those experiences into your story in a way that empowers you rather than hold you back. Living authentically, what does that really mean? At its core, it's about making choices that reflect your true self rather than trying to fit into someone else's mold. It's about letting go of perfectionism and embracing imperfection as a natural part of life. When you live authentically, you align with your values, your passions, and your truth. You're not afraid to show the world who you really are, even if that means being a little vulnerable. It's a liberating way to live because it frees you from the constant pressures to conform or meet others' expectations. But how do you start living authentically? It begins with self-awareness, understanding who you are, what you value, and what you truly want out of life. From there, it's about making small, brave choices that reflect that understanding. Maybe it's speaking up for yourself in a situation where you normally stay silent, or pursuing a passion that you've been putting off for years. Living authentically isn't about having it all figured out. It's about being on a journey of discovery and being okay with the fact that it's a work in progress. It's about embracing your true self, imperfections and all, and finding joy in the process. So how can you start embracing vulnerability and living authentically in your daily life? Here are a few practical tips to get you started. Number 1, start small. Vulnerability doesn't mean sharing your deepest secret with everyone. Start small by opening up to someone you trust about something that's been on your mind. It could be as simple as sharing a concern or admitting you're feeling a bit off. Number 2, practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself as you navigate this journey. Remember, it's okay to be a work in progress. When you catch yourself being self-critical, try to shift your perspective and offer yourself the same kindness you would a friend. Number 3, journaling. Take time each day to write down your thoughts and feelings. Journaling can be a powerful tool for exploring your true self and gaining clarity on what you want out of life. Don't worry about writing perfectly. Just let your thoughts flow freely. Number 4, take brave steps. Each day, challenge yourself to take one small brave step towards living authentically. It could be setting a boundary, saying no to something that doesn't align with your values, or pursuing something that you're passionate about. Number 5, celebrate your progress. Don't forget to celebrate the small wins along the way. Living authentically is a journey, and every step forward is something to be proud of. By embracing vulnerability and living authentically, you're not just improving your own life, you're also inspiring those around you to do the same. And that, my friends, is how we create a ripple effect of positive energy and growth in this world. As we wrap up this segment, I want to remind you that embracing vulnerability and growth is a powerful way to live a more connected and fulfilling life. It's not always easy, but it's so worth it. Remember, you are enough just as you are. That's right. Let me say it again. Remember, you are enough just as you are. And your journey is uniquely yours. Keep shining, keep growing, and keep being the incredible, authentic person you are. Wow, what an incredible journey we've been on together today. And I really wanted to take my time and give you all this information because it helps. It helps me as well. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode, it's that you are absolutely not alone in how you're feeling. We all have our ups and downs, and it's perfectly okay not to be okay sometimes. Remember, it's in these moments of vulnerability that we often feel our greatest strength. I encourage you to take what we've talked about today and reflect on how you can start being kinder to yourself and others. Whether it's embracing your emotions, practicing self-care, or supporting a friend in need, know that every small step you take is a step towards a more authentic and fulfilling life. If you have enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate us 5 stars and share Energize Your Passion with your friends and loved ones. Your support helps us reach more people who could use a little extra positivity and encouragement in their lives. And as always, I love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media or drop by the blog at EnergizeURPassion.com to continue the conversation. Until next time, keep shining your light and remember, it's okay to just be you. Sending you all love and light. This is Sunshine, signing off.